Welcome to Network Today. I'm Cheryl Powers.
I'm Rob Bliss.
And today we're not taking you from meeting people to
making money.
We're not, because we have a special present.
But first of all, I just want to hope everybody had a great Merry Christmas. And we're only Cheryl, we're like 4 days away from the new year.
Happy New Year!
And so what else?
What else? We're going to let you laugh. This is the gift of laughter and enjoyment, and you're going to get little snippets throughout this whole 2022 as we put a nice big bow on this year. Yeah. We wrap it up. This will be fun. So we hope you enjoy, and we just thank you from the bottom of our Network Nation hearts that you have spent your time with us this year. We take that with a complete just honor.
Yes.
It's just been an honor.
And we just, again, wish everybody a happy new year, that, 2023 is around the corner, and we're just so excited to bring you Network Today.
That's right. And we'll see you next year. Welcome to Network Today. We're so excited. Are you excited?
I'm pumped up. I am pumped up.
Well, you're also Rob Bliss. So that would be...
Thanks for the reminder, Cheryl.
That's right. And I'm Cheryl Powers.
And another important thing too is to learn to build relationships. And that takes in the follow-up. Not just meeting one time and then you go to the next event, meet more people, you go to the next event, meet more people. No, you've got to get a chance to build those relationships. And I think that is such a key, newbies out there, is that don't just collect business cards, build your relationships.
Yeah. It is all about relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you better be trustworthy. So, because
big
if you're
key.
not trustworthy, they're not going to refer you.
Yeah.
And I think so many people who start a business or their first job out of the gates is sales, no one's really taking the time to train them on building the relationship. It's about getting the numbers or getting the sale, and that becomes the focus, not really the person who they're trying to help. So I think there's a big difference with, like I said, going to give instead of the going to get mentality. You can really tell that on people, just the energy they give off, the things they say, and definitely the actions they're taking if they're passing their business cards around just like a deck of cards.
I try to focus before I get to an event of possible interactions that I might have, and or if it's a group that I may not know anybody in, I kind of have a target in mind of the type of person that I really want to have a conversation with. And so if I can walk away with one or two good conversations and business cards from people like that, then the event's a success, even though I may have talked to 15 or 20 people, right?
How would you explain being focused to entrepreneurs specifically? So those in the networking realm, how do you stay focused?
I'm a big believer that it all starts with your mission. So each person has their own personal mission, and then your company is going to have that mission. So if you're a business owner, those two missions need to jive, and you just need to run everything by your mission and just think of everything that you're doing, and does it align to where you're trying to go in life?
But I've had a long sales career, and sometimes I've spent a year or 2 years of following up with people. And sometimes those turn out to be your best clients, your biggest sales, because they can, right? Like, again, busy, difficult to get a hold of people. They're going to respect your perseverance. So I'm kind of a never give up kind of person, but I do eventually move on. And then maybe 6 months later, I'll be like, oh yeah, that person. Well, let me check in with them. And randomly, sometimes I'll invite them to a luncheon, and they don't respond to my email about the luncheon, but next thing I know, they've become a member of the chamber.
Right.
So
Right.
just people are very random, and you don't know. So you just do what makes sense for you.
Yeah.
But I think that's the most important thing, Cheryl. You and I were talking about the follow-up process. It's a little bit like planting a seed and then forgetting about it. You put it in that pretty pot out by the porch,
Yeah.
and you put that seed in there and you don't water it and you don't tend it, what happens to it? That's exactly what happens when you don't follow up.
It's a whole bunch of nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
You just have a bunch of dry dirt.
Yeah.
John Maxwell actually gave one of the best quotes on leadership and what leadership is, and he just defined it as influence. And so understanding that you are influencing yourself every day, and with that influence comes a responsibility. And the responsibility is to be purposeful, to be curious and to be engaged, and to follow up, quite frankly, after you go out and network. And so that's part of my discipline, ensuring that I'm purposeful. The one word I guess that I could use would be intentional in what I do. Choosing the networking events that make sense for me and that I have at least a time of preparation so that I'm effective.
Love, purposeful, intentional. Those are all great words. So how did you break down the being overwhelmed with processes and new relationships and things like that?
For being overwhelmed, one of the most important things is my attitude. And it's anyone's attitude. It's where it starts. You decide how you're going to address being overwhelmed. And prioritizing, I think, is the first step that you take. And I wrote down what I wanted to get out of relationships, what I was in going to the networking events for. And it was to make relationships with people that you can grow your business with. And so, prioritization was a big one for me because I did not know. I come from the nonprofit industry. So stepping into this role as sales or business development was, it was overwhelming.
What advice would you give somebody that's just getting started in networking so they don't, so they can be proactive and don't reach that burnout stage? Or is that something you're going to eventually happen to you?
I think it happens periodically to people.
Okay.
And I think you do need to have a plan in place. I've learned organizations that are helpful to me in networking, and I continue to go to those organizations, go to those meetings. I don't necessarily feel compelled to be there at every single meeting, every single month.
Right.
That's part of being free is not, feeling like you have to be there.
Right.
I have avoided organizations that I felt were not in my best interest.
But you're really intentional about gratitude. How has being intentional about gratitude helped you personally?
Well, I think just recognizing people and letting people know that the things that that they're doing for me are appreciated. I don't think that's a natural thing. I think that the people take others for granted many times. Yeah. I sent out thank you notes. I just got a notepad printed up with my stationery that I got 500 of them. So I have 500 thank yous to send out now.
Right.
So
to be on the lookout.
Surprised, yeah.
That's right.
And I was going out, just kind of don't breathe during the sales call and do it and come back. And I had a woman one day say to me, just kind of off the cuff, she said, the sooner you start acting like you, instead of trying to be them, this is going to go a whole lot better.
Wow.
What brilliant. So how do you keep in contact with those key go-to people that are reciprocal referral partners and keep that power team going?
So I kind of always refer to it as kind of the spokes on a wheel. So I always look at it like that. The nucleus is the client.
Right.
And then if you look at every spoke that goes off of that, that's your insurance person, your private equity guy, your banker, like everybody who is really an important person to that business owner. Yeah. And really from that point, I just try to keep those folks in my CRM system, kind of a special title in there. And that way I can drip whether it's different new products or services that we're offering or client stories, testimonials, just different things where basically I'm keeping top of mind for them.
Right.
And then constantly figuring out what is your message? What is your 2 to 3 sentence pitch that I can forward on to my clients?
So what is, say, your number one advice to the audience of how to begin working the room?
Be a three-dimensional person. Make eye contact. Use good body skill structure. Cheryl always has a very good eye and body structure where she looks open to networking and communicating. Use your skill set of speaking, and also use body language. You can wave if you're in a big room. If you've ever been in a really big room like a big wedding, you can't run up and talk to them, but you can wave. You can also smile, which is very important. You can make gestures. And then if you don't know someone, the very most important thing is to admit it and say, I would certainly enjoy meeting you. And if this is the first time, my name is Ron Kennedy. And if it's the second time, my name is Ron Kennedy, and they laugh. So I always try to make the people who are there, if they are first-time visitors or not, feel comfortable, and let them know I'm someone they can look for in the future and have kind of a safe space, if you will.
You never know. And so to your point, yes, making introductions, just allow yourself to be open.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of stay out of judgment and remain in curiosity at all times.
That's
if
good.
if you judge who's a good person to meet, or you're trying to figure out how I can refer this person because I really don't understand their business, don't worry about that. Just introduce them.
That's right.
So with this focus now that we see all the time about you need to stand out, you need to develop your own personal brand. Have you noticed a difference, or have you made any changes from day one into where you are today?
I don't think I have, because I learned a long time ago in the selling world, if you want to be invited back, be good. If you're consistent with being good, you've got a chance to have a great career in whatever endeavor. So one of the things that we need to do is be consistent, but deliver on promises. I think one of the biggest things is that we are selling ourselves. And one of the great quotes I learned many years ago, if you're going to sell yourself, make sure you believe in the product. And that's got to be consistent throughout the networking.
So many people, and we've all heard this, when they get in front of a networking group, the first words out of their mouth are what? My name is so-and-so, and I represent this company. You know what? Nobody cares. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. Nobody cares. What people want to know in the room is, what is the benefit of me knowing you and listening to what you're saying in the next 30 seconds to 1 minute?
Yeah.
So it is your responsibility to engage them in that first with the hook.
That's right.
But I encourage anybody developing their core story to have a more expanded one, and you can repurpose this just like any other of your marketing content. You can repurpose it for several different things. So you could have a short one when you're at these kind of events and you're talking to 3 or 4 people at once. You don't want to talk for 4 minutes about yourself, but you could have a longer, more intimate one when you're having a nice sit down over coffee with one person. And you really want to vibe and connect with that person. And my advice is just to read the room and just figure out, do you want to do a more long, more intimate version, or do you want to do a short, concise one?
Yeah. You know, along those same lines, like, I think one of the things that's very common now is this sort of the giveaway. Like, well, how can I add value to whatever it is you're doing? So I think, and that really kind of spurred on a thought, like I'm seeing a QR code, like if the QR code on this card right here, it took me to here's the top 10 accounting tips. Right,
exactly.
Right? Like, okay, well, that was really cool. They're giving me something through this. So I think that's great. It's like a call to action, but I'm also giving something of value. Maybe combining like all of these things together.
Absolutely.
So, okay, well, I'll have to talk to my
your people.
My people. We'll have to work on getting that going.
So resilience, what does resilience mean to you?
Oh my goodness, resilience. It means weathering through. It means getting up and going again. Like I just, one of the things I always share and I talk about this, it's kind of just something I've adopted. I don't, when I see something going into something, I just automatically know there's going to be crisis. Something's going to happen.
Yeah.
But our job is not really to look at that and say, okay, is it going to happen? We know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Your job is to figure out how to get around it. So that's when I think of resilience, is learning to navigate around challenges, obstacles, adversity.
always say proofread it. With anything, I'm a speech coach, so I teach speakers how to speak on stages. And I always say, if you want to write out your speech, fine, but take that speech and walk with it. Walk with it and say it out loud, because it becomes more conversational. So if you read it back out loud, you'll go, oh, I don't really talk like that. And you can edit it.
That's a really great point
That's
with
a
an
great
email as
point.
well.
Yes.
Right? So would you talk in a big old paragraph or
Right.
would you talk in little
Right.
sentences?
So I use Salesforce Lightning.
Okay.
And there is a plugin tool from Salesforce Lightning that will pull contacts out of LinkedIn and move them into your CRM.
Well, see, there we go. This is why we're having a conversation with Don.
Yeah, and a lot of these CRMs, the great thing about it, and they're much more now than just like, hey, it's a pipeline and then there's your sales piece and all that. It's now there's a full operational piece in the background, and the amount of plugins and tools are crazy. The Salesforce I use comes with Zoom. I have Zoom Info attached to it, Sales Navigator. I have Insight in there. There's a bunch of tools I have attached to it. So I could be on anybody's page, click on it, it opens up, I can find their contact information and immediately populate into my my
So
my
there's
CRM.
the answer. What are some of the criteria, at least in your mind? It could be high level, it could be really specific, that you say, okay, that they've started to move into my vision, right?
For me, I like to make networking introductions first for who they like to meet. The reason I like to do that is it's kind of a test for if they're actually going to follow up.
Right.
And they're actually going to update me on that introduction, because if they're not, pretty good chance that they're not going to follow up with the client introductions that I make too.
Yeah, that is a good point. So why should a professional use LinkedIn?
Number one, because you say you are a professional.
That's a good start.
Because many people these days are not asking for business cards. They're asking you to connect on LinkedIn. So you really need to make sure that you're not only on LinkedIn, because I have some people, I did a profile years ago, I haven't visited, but you really need to be active on LinkedIn, because that's how people look you up, want to know how they can connect with you. And the key word is network with you, because you never know. People, especially business professionals, always think that LinkedIn is only for jobs.
Right.
And that's the old way when they first came out. That's
Yes.
where you had to be to get a job. It's not about that. And I also liken it to be, you can get a job, meaning you can get a client. That is a job, right? If you can get a client from there, that's why it's so important for everybody to be on LinkedIn.
So what goes into your thought process in making a referral first?
Well, you have to connect people that are going to benefit from one another, clearly. So if I am at a meeting and I find out that somebody has a service that, say, Rob might benefit from, well, I might say, Rob might be a great connection for this person, and vice versa. So making the connection between two parties that are going to benefit from one another, whether it's securing business from one another or whether they will be good networking partners for one another.
So as a fellow networker, do you also categorize us based on industry?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, I think that's critical. That's a great point,
Yeah.
Chuck, because again, like you say, if you do this blast and it goes to someone in an office environment, they're just going to click delete it.
Or you come across as, what is this guy talking about? This doesn't even apply to me.
Right. That's So that's a great
and
point.
so I try to personalize those messages, and some of them are obviously boilerplate, but if you can personalize it 3 or 4 times and keep it short and sweet, it's not just boilerplate now. Now it's
Right.
something that's germane to what they're looking for.
What component of reciprocity as it applies to networking? Because that's the show, Network Today. What do you say in your mind is the application to networking for reciprocity?
For me, the law of reciprocity has always been sort of my number one networking strategy. And it's a strategy where you can feel really good about at the end of the day. Sort of giving in as much as you can and expecting nothing in return, and just trusting that the universe at some point in time, karma, right, will sort of deliver things back to you in spades.
what is your accountability in those situations when all of a sudden, because it happens sometimes, like the wheels are turning, but you don't have like a notepad. Like, so what's your accountability there?
It's challenging if you want to go out there and meet everybody, that's going to be a little tough. So basically I try to focus on meeting like 3 or 4 key people that I can really develop a relationship with and I can really help. So I don't try to do the scatter shot. If I kind of connect with 3 or 4 people, which is great, and be able to realize, can I really help this person? And if I can, like I said, I try to get that introduction out between 24 and 48 hours.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's, do you have the chops, right? Do you have the experience to do it? But that is kind of punching the ticket, if you will. The second part is really the most important, and that is, are you going to deliver what you say? Are you going to return calls? Are you going to be there? Are you going to step up and deliver what you have communicated that your value proposition is? And how are you going to do that? And will you do it with integrity and with grace and energy? And so all of the things that your brand would want aligned, I need to make sure that I'm aligned with yours and with yours. And so those are really the keys when it comes to that part of reputation.
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm with Paychex and the PEO side. I listened to episode 3 on my way to this amazing event. My biggest takeaway from that was that there is a distinction between networking and mingling. I love to meet new people. If I could make that a profession, I would do it. But I really came into this event and will go into future events with more intentional business conversations in mind.
Hi, my name is Deborah with Healthcare Solutions, and my favorite episode was the one about business cards. Does anybody have a stash of business cards on their desk like I do? And I think Rob and Cheryl did a great job of talking about the process of what do you do with all those business cards and all those names and all those connections, and how do you really make them meaningful relationships? So that was one of my favorite episodes, business cards.
Hi, I'm Sean Rosensteel. I am an EOS implementer, and I just listened to episode 28 on reputation with Glenna Hecht. And I think my biggest takeaway was, growing up, my parents always used to tell me that what other people think of you is none of your business. And after listening to Glenna, her insights about reputation, I think it's time for me to make my reputation my business and pay attention to it a little bit more. So thank you so much, Glenna, for all of your insights and guidance.
Hi, I'm Zoe Martin. I may be, Rob says, the only person who has listened to all 28 episodes of the Network Today podcast. So, woo! I just wanted to bring up that I'm proof that if you implement the actual information that you're learning, it works. I wanted to also bring up episode 13, Ron Kennedy. I was really hoping he was going to be here today. He talked about working a room, and I moved here in August. That was when Cheryl first mentioned the Network Today podcast. And when she mentioned it, I jumped on board. I binge watched or binge listened because I was doing Spotify, all of those episodes. And then, obviously I just finished the other one the other night. But here I live in McKinney. I have implemented the Network Today podcast. And in the 4 months that I've been here, I have done more networking and made better connections than the 4 years prior that I was in Longview, Texas. So shout out to Cheryl and Rob. They're doing a great podcast. And if you haven't listened to it, you totally should.
This has been a Purple Cow production.